I'm Maggie Williams, editor of Reward magazine. I'm here today with John Ritchie, CEO of Ellipse, to talk about life and long-term sickness benefits. So John, when it comes to the list of benefits that an employer can provide, why should those that address death and disability be at the top of the list?
Maggie, I suppose you could say I'm biased as a 30-year veteran in life insurance and life reinsurance. But to me, I think the time's right to slightly change the reward conversation in relation to benefits. We think that fundamental catastrophe cover for employees should start with life insurance and a reasonable amount of it, and also disability and perhaps even critical illness insurance. So increasingly we're encouraging advisors, people within our own company and the purchasers at the sponsoring employer to think about those as the foundation benefits. And it seems to me we get a little bit wrapped up in the engagement cliches and talk about, if you like, the rather fluffy benefits, cycle to work, restaurant vouchers, retail discount vouchers. Yes, they're all great, they have their place. But there's something to be said for going back to maybe Victorian values, but with an ultra modern digital delivery, because we think they can be fantastic value and they can be the foundation of any program, really.
But don't employees engage more with benefits that are immediate and easy to understand, such as discounts on shopping or gym memberships?
Well, do employers engage more on that, or employees? I think they can do both. I think, how often do we want to be reminded of our own mortality? Probably not that often, but I think a little more frequently than never. So I think they are the grown-up benefits, if I could put it like that. And I think that communicating with employees about them once a year when the benefit window is open for choices just isn't enough. And aside from employees, I think we also have to look at reward professionals and benefit managers and say to them, these aren't the big scary things. You need to talk about these benefits as well as what I call the handbags and glad rags sort of benefits.
So many people think that dying young or falling seriously ill are problems that happen to a handful of unfortunate people, but it will never happen to them. So how can those attitudes be overcome?
Well, I think it's an education piece, and people often don't know what their real incidence risk is. It is terrifically good news that if you are a 30-year-old male, then your chances of dying within a year are probably around 0.6, less than 1 per thousand, 0.6 in 1,000. Now, female even less. And of course that slope, it gets steeper with age. When you get to my age, it's 3.5, 4 per thousand. It's a real enough risk. But what we're not doing is saying to people, get it sorted. Understand that you have a meaningful amount of cover from work. Understand how little you've got and whether you need to top it up. So I think that it's an education piece, and if we just explain to people and illustrate, then we'll do well. I mean, I could, just to give you one of those sort of illustrations that could be used. If you took a group of 25 children in a reception class in a primary school, now by the time those kids do their GCSEs, at least one of them will have lost a parent. Now, if you describe that to any adult, any parent, then they start thinking, that's a fairly remote risk, but it's not highly improbable. Should I make provision for that catastrophe for my family? And I think our generation are not that much different from our father's generation or our grandfather's generation. We will do the sensible thing, but only if somebody is having a conversation with us about it.
Now, research shows that again and again, even employees who are covered for life and long-term sickness benefits aren't aware of how much cover they have. How can employers make sure that they understand and value those benefits? Just communicate.
Just the basic hygiene things, like make sure the nomination of beneficiary forms are complete because remember, life cover in this tax environment is incredibly efficient. The employer gets full tax relief on the premiums. It doesn't go into the estate of the employees. It's completely tax-free. and it's all done under a trust, which means you can get the money to the employee's family really quickly. So just having good routines, at least annual refresh of the nomination of beneficiary forms, the expression of wishes it's sometimes called, maybe even just benefit statements more than once a year. Just simple, expedient communications, and we'll get through.
And with employers having to comply with auto-enrolment for pensions, are life and disability benefits being sidelined?
The numbers would suggest they're not. If we look at last year and the year before, we can see basic underlying growth in group life business. Now you have to kind of sift that and say, is that rates hardening? What's causing that? But we can see numbers of schemes, numbers of employees, and in a really flat labour market as it has been for the last 5 years, undoubtedly auto-enrolment is a growth stimulus. We're seeing some schemes that are starting completely new life and disability arrangements because government has made the employer set up a workplace pension. And interestingly enough, those new schemes, the employer expects the group life provider to source everything. They expect a master trust. They expect online data and accounts. They expect online nomination of beneficiary facilities as well. So the expectations of these new to market employers are quite different from the old buyers who had a defined benefit linked group life scheme.
Well, John, many thanks for some great insights into this very important topic today.
You're very welcome.